What is something that doesn't seem dangerous, but actually is dangerous? Story 1. A lot of people don't seem to care about small wounds and don't take care of them well. You do not want to get an infection. Those things are very bad and can also be very dangerous. Story 2. Small campfires. A tree root can burn for weeks without anyone knowing. Then it can spread. Embers can travel for miles before they extinguish. River rocks can have pockets of water in them and can explode when heated. I have made this mistake myself and got lucky. Always make sure your campfire is cold when you leave it. If you can't hold your hand on the ground, and I mean touching the dirt for 15 seconds without feeling any heat, you haven't done enough. Also, in most states, it is illegal to have a fire in national parks without having a shovel with you. Just a heads up. Story 3. Food poisoning. A lot of people think they got a stomach flu and don't think anything else about it. Think again. CDC estimates that each year roughly 1 in 6 Americans, or 48 million people, get sick, 128,000 are hospitalized, and 3,000 die of foodborne diseases. Story 4. Stress. It can ruin your health, in particular the stress that you create in your head, anxiety, depression, or a host of things, too many to even list really. Take care of yourself. You are a person too. You deserve to do you for you. Story 5. Pressure washers. Story 6. Drinking sparkling, clear rainwater out of a ditch while playing Adventure Man. You will shite and vomit out your own intestines for the next 2 days. Story 7. Mixing meds or drugs, and even supplement. Xanax is way more fun with booze, but ITLL kill you. Some supplements like 5-HTP or SD Johnswort mixed with SSRI will kill you. Enzymes in grapefruit act a lot like an MAOI, makes opioids more fun, but more deadly. Activated charcoal can help an upset stomach, but also will cancel any meds you took. This means birth control won't work, and you can now get pregnant. So to answer, something from Walmart and Amazon mix will kill you. Fruit juice mixed with painkillers can kill you. OJ with shrooms makes it harder. So don't mix if you're already having a bad time. Something a doctor gave you and a friend legally uses with minimal effects daily will kill you. Always find interactions online and test your dope. Finally, some OTC supplements contain addictive or even illegal ingredients, so be careful what you buy. Story 8. The flu. So many of us are desensitized to the flu. It's just a bad cold we all get once every 1 to 3 years. No big deal. I was once bedridden for a week, had trouble breathing, and couldn't walk up the street without sitting down, all because of the simple flu. It's actually insane how out of control it can get. If you're a random, unlucky person, it could be especially dangerous, too. Story 9. Gas expansion. I work in a lab, and anytime you have a gas cylinder or liquid nitrogen in a small room, it's pretty dangerous. Even though the gas itself isn't toxic, displacing all the air can and has caused people to die. Story 10. Trampolines. My brother is an ER doc and said some of the absolute most gruesome things he has seen involve trampoline accidents. He actually urges everyone he knows not to buy one for their kids' turtles. In my state, it's illegal to capture any wild turtles due to a chance of catching fatal bacterial infections. Story 11. I'm coming in straight from a thread showing a video with a cyclist driving like and getting hit by a car. I feel like commute by bike seems like a great idea, and the health benefits probably are considerable, but dang, do I like putting a chunk of metal and plastic between me and motor vehicles. Story 12. These do-it-yourself pyrotechnic gender reveal parties. My gosh, how many raging forest fires do you need to start in order to let your cousins know you're having a damn boy? Story 13. Tiled stairs. Not stairs. Not carpeted stairs, tiled stairs. One slip and you're either bruising your spine or cracking your head open. I fell once, had a large bruise lined down my back from sliding down sharp tiled stairs. It hurt so bad. Story 14. Certain species of caterpillars that look like soft little fluff balls, but have poisonous spines that sting and release toxins into you if you touch them. They can cause severe pain, nausea, rashes, blisters, headaches, burning, swelling, and all that other fun stuff. Usually it's kids who pick up the caterpillars and get stung. Story 15. Spelunking cave exploration. And in that same category, urban exploring. Sure, that cave might have some neat stuff. Maybe you found an old grain elevator or a mine and you want to get some nice pictures. Carbon monoxide pockets can quickly kill. Stepping not right can injure you and leave you stuck. Smoking or tokaying in an abandoned place can lead to a fire or explosion. Getting stuck in a cave tunnel that is too tight and underground will most likely lead to you dying and not being found. There are just so many things that can go wrong so fast and with little warning. Always travel and explore with experienced guides. Learn about where you're going to go and always have a travel plan and let people know where you are intending on exploring and when you should be back. Story 16. Kangaroos. Most tourists only ever see tame gray kangaroos that are used to humans in petting zoos. You don't want to be anywhere near a wild, big red kangaroo that can stand over 6 foot tall and disembowel you with one kick. Story 17, bear with me. But getting to fights, I know everyone knows you can get hurt, but humans are randomly very fragile, and a punch to the side of the head can do more than give your opponent a headache. Without even trying, you can flat out kill someone, or you can trip and bash your head, etc. Too many people watch fight videos or live in violent cultures, think it's not a big deal, and completely misunderstand the risk you take getting into fights, or worse, the risk you pose to others. Story 18, cotton swabs. I know it feels good when cleaning them, but be careful of pushing earwax to your eardrum. That's a ticket to an ENT, ear, nose, and throat doctor right there. Story 19, cone snail. Not much bigger than your thumb, but can kill you quite quickly and painfully, and there is no anti-venom. Went diving in Hawaii and found a live one. I knew it was right when I saw it, placed it in a dive bag it couldn't get through, and took it home. Others might not be so knowledgeable and held it or put it close to their body. Story 20, water. Can't find any, you'll die. Drink too much, you'll die, although you'd have to drink a ridiculous amount. Flooding, you can die. Fast currents, dead. Go too deep, pressure will kill you. Go deep and rise too fast. You'll die from pressure changes. Water has a lot of ways to you up, even though it's one of the most necessary molecules of life. Story 21, sleeping on the ground. When exposure and hypothermia are the causes of death in the middle of summer, the land literally killed them. You need body heat to stay alive. The ground gobbles up your body heat because it's a massive heat sink. Story 22, using antibiotics in a way that wasn't prescribed by your doctor. In some parts of the world, China, Mexico, antibiotics don't require a prescription, and PPL will stockpile them and use them when they're sick. All it does is increase antibiotic resistance in your community. And if you get admitted to the hospital and require blood cultures, it won't be reliable since you've already taken a whole bunch of antibiotics. Edit, I've included a PubMed source below that explains it concisely. No idea why I'm getting downvotes. Story 23, ladder. Sounds like a joke, but I recently bought a new ladder and it was covered in warning labels, molded into the plastic parts, stamped into the metal, tags hanging from it, and stickers. So many danger, death warning. Stickers I near left in Home Depot, and just live with overflowing gutters. Story 24, underestimating OTC medication interactions. I can't remember what the other medication was, but I was talking on the phone with my mom a few years ago when she had a bad flu. She had mentioned taking Robitussin and talked about hallucinating airplanes flying in her house. I stressed to her that that wasn't just a harmless thing, and she later told me she looked up and found that the med she was taking had a potentially fatal interaction with Robitussin. Story 25, having a baby. I remember being in labor for hours. I all of a sudden felt good. No pain, warm. I heard someone discussing my heart rate, and giving me something brought me right back to work. No one ever said a thing to me about it. Everything turned out fine. That was 22 years ago. Story 26, the school bus. Let me explain. When I was in school, I would take the bus because I lived quite a while away. The bus driver changed a few times. My first 2 bus drivers were pretty good people, followed all the laws and social norms, but this guy, you'll just call him Scradit, or Scradit for short. Scradit would hug every single kid on the bus, every single one. Then he would always arrive last second. By that I mean school starts at 9. He would come at 8:55. Because of this, he would always ignore the speed limit and every other road safety law. Stop sign. Never heard of her. Some days he just wouldn't show up and force us to pretty much live the stories our parents always tell us. Let me remind you, this was Canada, so it pretty much always -20 to -30 degrees during the bulk of the school year. Then one day I was on the bus and he suddenly stopped. I don't know why. Probably remembered stop signs existed. This caused me to sprain my neck and not be able to turn it for a month. You don't realize how much you take neck for granted until you can't use it anymore. Ever since then, it's never been quite the same. Of course, my parents made several complaints. All of them ended the same way. There's no evidence. Then they asked for this information, a list of complaints with personal details redacted, and the GPS data from the time of the accident. They didn't give it to us. My father went to all available resources, and they all proved that there was no legal reason for them not to give us the stuff. Then they did give us the GPS data. It proved that Scradit was speeding. He's apologized since, but I still hate the guy. You can't apologize for something when we've told you to stop several times before the accident. TLDR, I hate buses because I sprained my neck. Story 27, driving without a seatbelt. I know a lot of people that didn't care and figured it was no big deal. If you watch a video of someone in a wreck with no seatbelt, they go flying. Put your seatbelt on. Story 28, professional wrestling rings. Many people think they have a lot of extra protecting and padding in there, and some even think it's like a trampoline. In actuality, it hurts like it'll land on them. Mostly made of, and usually there's padding, but that's it. Don't try this at home, kids. Story 29, not washing your hands. So simple, but many either don't bother at all or do it incorrectly. Thus COVID-19 spread and many other communicable illnesses. If you don't wash your hands regularly, especially in this time and age, you're not only putting yourself, but everyone at risk. Story 30, diving off the diving board in swimming pools can be super hazardous unless the pool is one that has been designed for swimming and diving competition, i.e. club or school pools. ESP for people over 62. Reason is that the Red Cross men distance wreck. From the end of the board to what is called, I believe, the incline plane, where the bottom of the pool slopes up into the shallow end, is something like 12 to 16 feet. Most municipalities, however, due to lobbying from pool construction firms to keep pools more affordable, have regs that allow 8 to 10 feet from the end of the board to the incline plane. And another danger are the pools that were ORIG built without diving boards and were approved with the idea that everyone would be diving off the edge of the deep end. Well, when a diving board is put on at some point, it's rarely done with a permit SS that would force reconfiguration of the bottom of the pool. Someone 64 or taller getting a running start and diving at a med angle. Well, you get the picture. Always better to do the racer's dive out over the water with your momentum taking you out over the surface and dissipating a great deal when you land. Another diving hazard is in lakes, rivers, and oceans where one has been used to diving in the past, and shifting currents, storms. Man-made projects have caused the old diving point to become considerably more shallow and hazardous, and it's rarely visible to the human eye. Story 31, Tylenol. Acetaminophen causes liver failure in high dosages. You would be shocked at how many people die inadvertently from this every year. Story 32, in America, guns, not mass shootings, but lack of common sense. My heart still breaks when gun owners can't remember the first rule of approaching a firearm. Story 33, walking around in the heat all day, drinking a whole lot of water, but nothing else. A friend of mine almost died from this. Don't forget your electrolytes. Story 34, manholes. If you are careless, you can die in seconds from gas poisoning. If there's something wrong with the pipes, don't go down a manhole yourself and expect to fix it or even just inspect. Call a specialist. Story 35, breath holding contests. Especially if you hyperventilate, take big breaths beforehand. See, the thing is, your body only thinks it needs to breathe when there's a bunch of CO2 in your lungs, not when the oxygen in your blood is low. When you do a breathing exercise, you reduce the base CO2 in your lungs, but don't bring in more oxygen on your big inhale. This means you can run out of O2 before your body ever thinks it needs to breathe and pass out. Source AM lifeguard. This is why we don't like it when you go under for a while. Story 36, babies and magnets. If they swallow even small ones, they can end up tearing their intestines if they are pulled together. It's actually really dangerous. Story 37, stepping out of the shower or bathtub. Most floors are or can get slick, and most bathrooms are full of very hard surfaces, distressingly many of which have sharp corners. Grab rails really ought to be mandatory if you don't have one installed. Strongly consider it. Story 38, my dad, previously a lawyer, recently was legally allowed to destroy some of his old documents. He got rid of the physical stuff, mostly paper files, by burning all in a big bonfire, and the digital stuff by letting my younger brother and I tear the hard drives apart, drill holes in them, beat them with sledgehammers, and snapping them with chain cutters. Story 39, skating whilst holding hands, or in a conga line, or really any form of close proximity. With the exception of synchronized pair and dance skaters who know what they're doing, you should never hold on to someone whilst ice skating. You don't save them, and they will bring you down. Plus, a fall with two people is far worse than with one person. Story 40, bleach. Mixing it with other cleaning products or fruits that contain acids such as lemons or oranges can produce deadly chlorine gas. Bleach should only be mixed with water. Story 41, slicing a bagel. Apparently, so many people injure themselves that way. Probably in part because it's such a mundane, routine thing to do, you let your guard down about the insane serrated knife you're wielding. Story 42, angel's trumpet. Absolutely gorgeous flower and bush. Touching it can completely mess you up. Hallucinations, paralysis, muscle spasms. It's unfortunate because they are pretty. Story 43, social media. Actively collecting the kind of data on that many people, and someone will eventually get hold of it and use it for something nasty. Even with the best intentions, it's still not a good idea. Story 44, drinking straight out of the orange juice or milk carton. I worked at a grocery store and was asked to clean the dairy shelves once. It was a job that most likely no one had ever done. They expected me to just clean the top of the shelves and get any spilled product off. Well, let me tell you, no one had cleaned those shelves in years. That meant that every time a carton leaked, it went through the holes on the shelf to underneath the shelf, On every single shelf that I pulled out, there was a thick layer of black mold underneath. Now, you might think, who cares about underneath the shelf? Well, the lids of your cartons sit directly beneath the underside of those shelves, which means for years, black mold spores were spraying down onto the tops of your cartons of milk or orange juice or whatever. So think twice about drinking straight from the carton next time. Story 45, walking. There's many things around you, and as you go on the platform, you're walking on rapidly changes, and one distraction can lead to fatal injuries. Story 46, breathing oxygen. Insufficient concentration pressure for long enough slowly irritates the lungs' pulmonary toxicity, or quickly gives you blackouts, among other things, central nervous system toxicity. But it's okay. Unless you're underwater at depth or breathing pure oxygen for days, you'll be fine. Story 47, low head dams. Also known as drowning machines. They don't look like much, but with even moderate water flow, a rotor forms on the downstream side that will you under and bash you around while you drown. Story 48, mixing cleaning products. Some combinations create gases that are very deadly. Using them in a confined space like a bathroom can kill you in mere minutes. Story 49, suspension springs and truck HGV tires. I've seen a spring come off a hand compressor turned by hand using a 12 ratchet. Sounded like a gunshot and tore through a wall. If one of those things gets loose and hits you, your insides are coming outside. Likewise, watch the guy inflating a 22. 5, I think, tire on a split trim should always be done in some sort of cage. Yet again, a very loud bang, and parts of the wheel scalped the guy, taking some of his skull with it. We found other parts that had exited via the roof on a nearby motorway hours later. Poor guy is wheelchair-bound and resembles someone that has had a severe stroke. I don't know why mechanics and vehicle fitters still think it can't happen to me. Also, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. There aren't clear enough warnings out there for the home gamer. You need to know what's safe and what isn't. Story 50, swimming pools. More children die every year in swimming pools than from gun violence. Statistically, it's more dangerous to have a pool than own a gun. Also, swimming pool accidents are the leading cause of spinal cord injuries. People jump in head first and hit their head and spend the rest of their lives paralyzed from the neck down. Story 51, grapefruit juice. It messes with your meds. Link for more info. Story 52, charging a walkie-talkie. My mom just kind of sniffs the air and be like, you smell smoke, and I turn around, the thing is on FI hot air ballooning. Sure, seems like it could be a nice romantic date or fun with the family. The next thing you know is a gust of wind comes and sweeps you into a power line, burning you to death, or smashes you into a tree like Gallagher smashing watermelons. Story 53, tent pegs. When I was a boy, my dad ran over a tent peg ID left out by accident with a petrol lawnmower, and it flew out and hit me sideways across the forehead. So hard it took me off my feet. If it had been end on, it would have gone straight through and into my brain. Only other people I've seen as pale as Dad that day have been in the morgue. Story 54, drinking water while working outside during the summer. This is called water shock. It's possible for you to flush out almost all your electrolytes, and your cells burst from the much. I advise workers to drink a Gatorade during your lunch break, and once you're off work, in addition to your water intake. Water should also be kept at 50 to 60 degrees for optimal hydration. Cold water also passes through the body faster because the body depass it faster. Story 55, AC angel or Clyone. A kind of marine snail. Most of the time, it just flaps around the deep ocean looking cute, but when prey comes near, it turns into a Lovecraftian monstrosity. It's not likely to harm humans, as we're much bigger, and it's farther down than any human can survive swimming to. Story 56, eating, food, drinking water, contamination, viruses, parasites. Oh my, I got a case of severe viral gastroenteritis that lasted over 3 months from some bad food-contaminated water on my week-long vacation. I was ambulanced to the ER 5 times in that time span, was vomiting multiple times a day, couldn't break down food, liver and bile duct started failing, lost 20 pounds in the first month down from 120. One of the ambulance rides, I literally thought I was dying. My guts were in so much pain, and I was puking dark green and blood and convulsing, screaming till I passed out from pain. I couldn't walk for a few days because I would faint from malnourishment and dehydration, all because I ate at a buffet in Cuba. Story 57, nutmeg. 2 teaspoons can cause symptoms of toxicity and potentially death. It was once used as a hallucinogenic drug as far back as the 12th century, leaving the user with what feels like a 2-day hangover. It could also leave you with permanent brain damage, so maybe don't be adding it to your tea. Story 58, eating certain raw vegetables. Take the potato, which if eaten raw may poison you, and must be cooked or coated with a clay gravy to inactivity the toxins. Also, without a condom or any birth control, your pullout ain't always going to save you. Story 59, political apathy. It's so easy and tempting to not care because it doesn't impact you, and what difference would your single vote make? But you absolutely must be involved in holding power to account. We all must, as power without consequences leads to the worst outcomes for everybody but the powerful. There are no benevolent dictators.